Today we're talking about Studio Suite. Of course, my name is Joel, and this is a complete overview of Studio Suite. So this will take about 60 to 90 minutes. We may take a break in the middle. We have a lot to cover, so put your thinking caps on. We are recording this, and it'll be posted to our site. And we did a little joke about what the I stands for, and it goes to 11. Italics, integrated intelligence is a little more spooky, but also access via the internet is really the big deal with that. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of the data flow in Studio Suite and how that goes through, and kind of in relation to the modules. So it all starts with contacts. And so that is where we keep track of your clients and prospects and vendors and staff and emails and all that kind of stuff. And then there's resources like rooms. And within that, we track all of the outlets and the pictures and the rates and the equipment and the maintenance for each of those. And I mentioned equipment. So we've got a whole equipment inventory area to track that, and the barcodes and your maintenance and packages and depreciation and rates and usage history and all that kind of stuff. And then services. Those are things that you do that don't have physical objects that go along with them. And services can come in packages, like you'll do a shoot, and that includes all of the stuff that you do there, the rates that go along with that, and even budget codes if you're using the AICE or P style budget templates. And more detail on the rates, they come in hourly, daily, weekly, flat rate, project rate, client-specific rates, rental style rates. And each one of those has budget codes, account codes, profit loss, and market rates. So super detailed there. And as you're assembling all of those resources and rates into a budget using those templates I mentioned, you can also build your own templates, and you can also get those exported out to Excel in nicely formatted sheets. And when that budget is accepted, that kind of turns into a project. We've got a couple different hierarchies of that. The highest level is a production, and we'll talk about this more. And then there's projects, and then project groups, and then within the project there's resources, there's the budget versus the actual, and your profit loss. As far as equipment, we can check equipment in and out. We can manage all the discounts, we can set up notifications, and of course conflict detection is important in something like that. And that you have conflicts when things are double booked, so that's why we've got a calendar, all the different views you would expect: day, week, month, a Gantt view, agenda view, and that's where you track all of your events, your projects, your tasks, also employee schedules and daily notes. And the calendar has a two-way sync to Google Calendar and iCal. And of course, the purpose of all of this is to create content. So there is a library module to track not only your digital assets, but your physical assets, as well as electronic delivery, barcodes, check-in, check-out of your physical media assets, statuses of that, as well as printing receipts, labels, and history of all of those as well. And then the whole point of this is to make money. So there's an invoicing module, of course, with full reporting, exports out to QuickBooks, MYOB. You can email your invoices, track your discounts, late fees, and commissions, and all that kind of stuff. So the kind of big point here, the takeaway, is that your workflow equals the data flow. And as your process goes through your workflow, so does the process of moving the data along. So I want to talk a little bit more about this data structure and kinds of how that flows. I mentioned a bit ago productions. Production is the highest level of the hierarchy. And production could equate to something like a season of a TV show, a feature film, a large multi-phase project. And of course, you've got multiple productions going on at any given time. And each production would have at least one project, which is maybe a subdivision of all of the stuff that occurs within that. And that would equate to something like an episode of a TV show, a large aspect of a film like pre-production, shooting, post-production, editing. It could equate to like a reel of film, or maybe just like a one-off job. And of course, you have multiple projects within a production, and projects can also stand alone. And within each project, you may have multiple events. And an event is when you've got any one of those resources we talked about in the other slide, such as your rooms, your equipment, your contacts, your people, your services, your media inventory, or any other materials, expendables, each of which could have multiple rates, hourly rates, daily rates, weekly rates, client-specific rates, rental style rates. So when you take those resources along with their rates and you apply them to a date and a time, That means you've got an event, and you got a bunch of events within a project. And those events are what appear on the calendar. And those calendars can have that two-way sync again to Google Calendar, iCal, and also be visible on your mobile devices or just regular desktop. And then that is what flows out to the invoice. So that's kind of the flow of it. But it goes beyond that. What if you need to get those invoices out to your external accounting programs like QuickBooks or MYOB or Account Edge or something like that? And as we mentioned earlier, the whole point of this is to be creating content. So that's all managed in the library module. And through the process of creating all that content, through all of these stages, you have a lot of different tasks that occur. Those need to be assigned to different people, different projects, different productions, different events, monitor the status, see them in the calendar, all that kind of thing. And of course, all this ties back to the client. And so that is kind of the magic flow of that. And I haven't quite beat the map horse to death yet. So I'm going to use another analogy that I do all the time, which is that Studio Suite is a lot like a city, a big city like New York City. And if you're from the country, it can be overwhelming at first. It's chaotic, it's loud, it's noisy, it's scary. But after a while, you learn that there is a deli on every corner, or a Starbucks, as the case may be. And there's always more than one way to get from one place to another. And pretty soon, you feel like a native, and you've got it under your thumb, so to speak. So I'm going to move next on to accessibility. With Studio Suite XI, we've had a couple growth spurts. We've always had a robust desktop application, and there's 3 versions of it, Solo, Pro, and Network. Solo is the student hobbyist version. Pro is like a work-at-home professional editor. And a Network version is a commercial facility that's got a bunch of different users all connected to a server, and they may be inside or outside of that building. And they may be accessing Studio Suite via their iPhone or iPad. We had this in a previous version, but it's come a long way since then. We've also always had our Web Glancer, which is a free, unlimited, read-only, secure browser access to the calendar module, the contacts module, tasks, library, web request, and quick log. All of these have been fairly dramatically improved in XI. And then the bigger news, as we teased earlier with the, what does the I stand for, is the WebDirect full access via browser from anywhere. Now, just a word on that. We're not promoting that as a primary access for your users. It's really still more of a secondary access. Your primary schedulers, budgeters, bookers, all those people, they're still going to want to use version 1 up top there. They can access it any of these other number ways. And I just want to repeat for number 3, the Web Glancer, all of your staff and crew can access the calendar read-only to see what's going on. So we think that's going to save a lot in terms of seat license costs. That does require the network version. Actually, version step 2, 3, and 4 here all require the network version of Studio Suite because they require a server. Servers and networks kind of go hand in hand. The next thing I want to talk about is integration. I'm not going to read off all of these, but the theme of this slide is mainly that Studio Suite connects to all of these things, whether it's connecting to the files or storing those files or exchanging data like with QuickBooks, or full access via iPhone, iPad, sharing data with your address book, the two-way sync to iCal and Calendar, push notifications, Skype, texting. There I did it. I read them all out loud. I promised myself I wouldn't, but there it is. So the next thing we'll do is take a look at the software. How about that? So here is Studio Suite, and I want to talk about the main menu for a second. This is the main menu, and all of these modules come with Studio Suite, and nobody uses them all, and that's normal. We've got a really wide range of customers using Studio Suite, and we want to provide tools for everybody, but nobody uses them all. So on a per user basis, you can specify which of these buttons will or will not appear on certain users' systems. I'll also point out that we've got some little numbers here. This is showing me that I've got 4 invoices that are overdue right here. And if any invoices were due today, I would see a number over here on the left side. And that number appears for projects and tasks and anything else that might be relevant. Over here is daily notes. This is where everybody can type notes into their system. Everybody can see that. Below that are my messages. I'm glad that I don't have any. Below that are my tasks, things that I need to do. And below that are follow-ups, people that I need to call back. And if I were going to call Andy Engineer right now about that next project, I would just click on it and then make some notes about whatever it is that we talked about, and I would say convert to call, and that's going to now disappear out of my follow-up list. So I can do that right from the main menu. And then the bottom right is the events that are scheduled today. We talked about those earlier. You can see I've got some different resources here: Studio B, Foley, Edit One, Edit Editor, the camera. Those are all scheduled today. The colors are indicating status. So maybe if I want to indicate that that FTP had just been completed, I could click on that. That's going to bring up the little edit window. And then from here, I can say complete. That's going to change to blue so we can see that that was actually done. And I actually can see that it was done there because it's showing me the path, the date and time that it was all done. So I'll just hit save changes on that. Now, because I changed that one thing on that one project, remember we've got a lot of stuff on these big projects. It's asking me if I want to apply that same complete status to everything else that's related. I'm just going to say no in this case. I can also filter this. There happens to not be an event for me scheduled today, but if I wanted to, I could filter that to show only myself. But Edit Editor's got something, so if we pretend for a second that I'm Edit Editor, I could filter that and only see the events that I care about. And we also just happen to have one project worth of stuff today, the serial drama. But if we had multiple projects going on today, I could filter to show just that project. Next, I want to go into the setup area. I just want to show you very quickly where some of the preferences come from, and also mention that we can set up multiple companies. So there's a company called Mark's Company, Planet Perfect Productions, another one called the Louvre, and we can create as many of those as we need. For each one of those, we would put in the different logos that go along with it. We could proceed through here and look at all of our taxes, what kinds of things are taxed, all the really boring stuff, the different titles of people that are typically on your kinds of projects. I mentioned earlier we've got a lot of different kinds of customers. Some people are, music studios. Some people are film production companies. So you end up with different kinds of default people on each project. There's a bunch of module preferences I'm going to skip over. I'm going to just jump into user accounts. Just to show that this is where you would create all of the different users that are going to have access to the system and what their privilege set or their role is. So if I go look at Molly, for example, I could see all of her permissions and preferences. And speaking of permissions, there are a bunch of different ones. Before I get to permissions, I should talk about the privilege sets. There's 12 different privilege sets that correspond to various different roles that you might have at a facility, such as the owner, the accountant, scheduler, producer, editor, engineer, receptionist, runner. All of those people should see different kinds of information within Studio Suite, and those have been essentially all pre-formatted for you, but you do have the ability to go in and adjust that. So let's say, for example, Molly, I didn't want her to have access to, say, the invoice module for something like that. So I would go to invoices and I would just turn that off so that it was no longer visible. And then what that's going to be doing is changing the list of permissions here. So next I want to go back to main menu and then we'll go into contacts. And this is the first place we're going to see kind of the modules and how they look and work. And we are working on a fairly fresh copy of Studio Suite in here, so there's not a lot of data in it. I wish we had more data in this fresh copy to show you, but this is what we've got. So obviously, name, address, phone number, emails, URLs that all correspond to this person. If I wanted to call Edit Editor, just like I did a bit ago, I would hit the little plus sign there, and I want to call him on the 1st of September to discuss whatever. And that's now going to show up on my main menu as something that I need to do. So that's a nice way to keep track of all that stuff. If I called him right now or he called me, I would be able to click on that and say I called and just very quickly document what it is that we talked about. Sometimes documenting those conversations is almost the most important part of your business, and that's why we try to make that really easy for you. I'm going to go through some of these other tabs here. You'll notice that some of them are underlined. That means that there is information on that tab. If I go to here, I can see all the projects that Eddie has been involved with, either as a client or as a participant, as we're seeing there, or as talent. If he's in front of the camera or the microphone, he would show up here. And those collect automatically. We don't have to assign them. They work automatically. The web viewer is really neat. This is going to show us, as we scroll through all of our contacts, very quick searches on, say, Google or Google Maps. If you have the address of that person, you can tell right away where they are. Pre-formatted search to IMB for this guy, so we can see everything that he's been involved with. Same for YouTube. Same for all music. And other things like LinkedIn and any other URLs that you create just for this particular person. So Studio Suite is bringing you all of the information from the web right to your face. For contacts, we've got a lot of employee information. I won't dig too deep into, but all the HR kind of stuff, employee status, those kinds of things. Also tracking rates that you charge for each of your employee. And this guy, James Johnson, has got an underline on the financial tab, so that means I know that we've got at least one invoice for him. And of course, remember that only certain people would be allowed to see this tab. It would just not allow access if you were the receptionist, for example. But this is where we can keep track of credit limits, billing terms, taxes, account numbers, invoicing and aging and all that kind of stuff. Also, client-specific rates can be looked at and edited from here. And then still within the contacts module, we're looking at the media assets that belong to this guy. So we can see that he's got a bunch of different media assets. We can see the status, whether they're in or out, and we can jump right to one of them. So if I want to go to episode 1000, that's going to bring me right into the library module. I'm now looking at all 7 of the media assets that are related to this particular guy. From there, I could jump to the production or project that they're related to, but I'm going to use the back button in this case to jump back to where I was in the contacts module. So that's one kind of media asset. And there's another kind, which is the attach and FTP tab. And this is where we can attach any kind of document to this record in the database. And there's a couple different ways that we can do it. I'm going to zoom out for a second. Just to show you the drag and drop version. So I'm just going to drag some files from my desktop into the window here. It's giving me the option to store these either as a reference, meaning it's storing a path to where those files are on my desktop, or it's going to store them remotely. And that's really a better way to do it. What it's going to do in that scenario is it's transferring those files to the server into a shared location, so that if I fold up my laptop and I'm on the bus, everybody will still have access to that. And that also, by the way, helps us with versioning. So I've got the original copy on my laptop. There's another one that somebody else can download from the Studio Suite server, work on, update, upload again, and that'll be a separate version. And Studio Suite will handle all those. And of course, we can make notes on every one of those as well. So that's one way to do those attachments. I'm going to go to another record here, show you another way. So I'm going to hit the plus icon. And if I want to look at a file, I can pick the file, and this is going to let me choose from here. Let's just say I'm going to grab this one right here. And then I do insert. So now that file is being transferred across to the server, and everybody will have access to it. And if security is of issue, over here under access status, this is where we can control who will actually have access to it. It can be public, it can be private, which means that only people at my access level and above will have access to it, or it can be limited, meaning that I can choose which of our privilege sets will have access to that file. So sometimes, if you're working on top secret stuff, that can be critical. Now there is an FTP function built into Studio Suite as well. So if I click on that FTP button, I can hit yes, and I think I forgot to load my FTP plugin. Yeah, so it's not loaded right now. My apologies on that. But if it was, what would have happened is I would have just connected to that server in my favorites. I would see the files that are up there. Here's my file down below, and I would be able to click upload, and that would upload that file to their system. And then it would log it here as well, and also give the opportunity to send that upload back as a line item, as a billable line item to a project. There's also a QC module here. So if if I'm the artist and I just created this and I wanted to send that off to somebody else and have them judge it for me, this is the QC report area. We're kind of venturing way outside the realm of contacts, but I just want to show you how connected some of this stuff is and that kind of three-dimensional stuff. So I'm just going to call this webinar. QC report webinar, and this is where I would be able to make a bunch of comments about what's going on. If this were a longer piece of material, I'd be able to put in, say, time codes, what was going on, characters, roles, durations, channels, severities, whether it was in the source, did we correct it, and then finally I would give this a grade of A after everything was perfect, and then I would print it out. Then I've got a nice QC form. And this is a good opportunity, since it's the first form we're looking at, to say that all of the forms, and actually all the screens, are completely customizable. It's one of the hallmarks of Studio Suite, is that you can go into what's called layout mode at any point and move stuff around, change all your fonts, colors, positions, add some of the user fields that are available to you, and also remove some of the stuff. Most importantly, was what a lot of people like to do. So I'll hit done on that. So now we're back in contacts. And then when I hit this plus sign again, I can pick a folder. If I want to link to that somewhere, I could put in a URL. So if I put in, of course, studiosuite.com, I can click OK. Now I've got a URL. Of course, I typed it wrong, so that won't even work. I'm going to correct it. And this is a great way if you're posting content up to websites or something like that. Maybe Andy Engineer did a final project, and now this is where it is. I can click on that little globe thing, and it's opening up in my other browser off screen there. And now I've got access to that content. Pull that away for a second. And then the other kind of thing we can do from here is FTPs. So if I wanted to go retrieve any kind of digital asset from maybe a client's server, I could do that from Studio Suite as well. So I can deliver and retrieve assets via FTP right within Studio Suite. Okay, enough of that. Next tab over that is also in every module is the Reports tab. And this is where we can find all the kinds of printouts that you would expect to see from whatever module you're in. Since we're in contacts, of course, we've got things like company lists, and phone books, and envelopes, and mailing labels, and all that kind of stuff. And as I alluded to earlier, we can set up multiple companies. And so whenever we're printing something out, we have the option to print whatever letterhead, for example, we might choose on that. And by the way, with these multiple companies, there's separate reporting for them as well. So if you do have separate companies, maybe you've got a rental company, a production company, a post company, a development company, each project can be assigned to a particular company. All the invoicing will be attributed to each company. Each piece of equipment can be attributed to a particular company. Each of your contacts can be attributed. So you really get a really nice way to subdivide all that stuff as it goes out. And then the next thing on the Reports tab is the audit log. And this is where it's tracking all of the changes that are being made to the most important fields in each database. So as I go through here, we can see that Joel changed the company selector from Super Duper Studios to Planet Perfect Post on this record. And of course, it tracks all of your phone number changes, your address changes, and more importantly, in project information, who changes the rates and the dates and the times and some of that more critical stuff. And if this record is deleted, what happens is this entire audit log will get stored over in a deleted audit log table. So if you, for some reason, don't have any backups, which shame on you, but if that happens, you'd kind of be able to retrieve that data, or at least some of the data, from the stored audit log deletion records. Next, I'm going to go to the List tab, still within Contacts, and this is where we've got some quick finds built in. There's all my clients. Here's all my vendors, all my employees, all my personal friends. I've only got one. All the locations, none of those. So I'm going to go back to Find All. And I'm going to sort this by resource. So this is putting all of my resource people to the top of the list. And when I say resource, what I'm talking about is my staff editors, engineers, my freelance cameramen, makeup artists, all those kind of people. They are your resources. And I showed you earlier about how each one of them can have a number of different rates. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail soon. So here are people that are resources. Next, I'm going to go to the Rooms module. And we've got room resources as well, and some rooms that are not resources. So I've got an office and an equipment room. I don't need to schedule those two rooms, so they're not resources. Within each room, I can see things like dimensions and AC outlets, breakers, all that kind of stuff. I can see rates. Let's go look at rates for the first time. So for Studio A, we've got a bunch of different rates. What I'm going to do actually, though, is let's create a whole new room. I'll show you that process. So I click the New button. Let's call this Edit 2, because I know we don't have an Edit 2. Oh, I guess we do. All right, for Web. So that's the name of this room. And so let's call this a Edit Suite. It's in Building 1. That's optional, of course. And I'm going to make it a resource. So I just click on that button, and it's going to turn green in a second. And that's going to mean that it's going to be accessible, visible in the calendar. And it's also going to be accessible and bookable in a project. So within that room, I'm going to go to the Rates tab, and let's start creating rates for it. So I hit the plus sign right here. What kind of rate do you want to create? I want to create a regular rate. So it's going to pre-name it for me in the category of rooms, subcategories, edit suite, and let's give it a rate name. Let's call this hourly. And let's charge a whopping $100 an hour for that. I happen to know that in my building here that, if I've taken the time to break down what our hourly rent is and utilities and all that stuff, let's call it $5. It actually costs me in rent utilities per hour to do that stuff. And I know that all my competitors are actually charging $150 for this. So this market rate is going to allow me to print out a report at the end of a project to let our customer know that they saved a lot of money by using us, or not, as the case may be. I can assign this rate to a particular client if I want to. I can skip that. I'll show you how that works. If I click on that, I get a pop-up list of all my clients. Let's say that this is the Adam Smith rate. If I want to clear that, I can do that. And I can also assign a particular action to this. So whenever I use this rate, a particular action will come along with it. And there's also rate cards. And these are divided up into things like internal, external, corporate, commercial, educational, film, TV. You can make your own. But if you need to do some reporting, subdividing on, well, how much corporate stuff did we do? How much educational stuff did we do? And have rates that are scaled appropriately to them, you can do that within Studio Suite. Over in the upper right corner is where we are putting in all the external account details. So if this were QuickBooks, for example, we would have a class, we would have the item type, we would have the item name of whatever this is called in QuickBooks. And you can abstract these. So maybe we don't need all of the detail in QuickBooks about Studio Time, so I'm just going to call it Studio Time. And in QuickBooks, it doesn't matter which studio it is, and then which account it goes into. So we'll put this in services. Overtime is there as well, so let's create an overtime rate. And this has been improved quite a bit from all previous versions. We can now just say that the overtime is $120 an hour, and the expense is actually still the same for that. And new to XI is double overtime. I forgot to mention that last week in last week's webinar. So let's create a double overtime rate. And let's say that the charge on this is $150 an hour for that, and our expense is actually still the same. There's some other preferences and details, things down there that we'll skip over for now. But so now we've got a new room, and we've got a rate for it. And we've also got those overtime rates, the overtime and double overtime, and that was an hourly rate. So just to make a point, I'm going to very quickly show you how quickly this can be done. I'm going to create a daily rate. It goes much faster when you don't have to talk. So $1,000, and then let's call this $50. And then 1,500. The overtime rates will still apply, so I can select from my existing ones. So here's Edit to for webinar, and then the double overtime, DOT, double overtime, will work for this as well. So let me pick that. So just that quickly, we made the second rate, and you can create as many more as you want. I should name that properly. Sorry. Call that daily. That way it'll look proper when we get to that phase. So that's a room. There's maintenance history. So maybe the light bulb went out, and we need to notify the guy that takes care of that. So I'm just going to make that quick, and I'm going to make this a very high priority because it's dark in here and we can't see. And then the guy would say changed it, and it took an hour because I moved very slowly, and I charged $10 an hour, which is why I move slowly. And the part cost, I don't know what light bulbs cost, $2. But let's say before I filled it all at fix, I needed to notify the guy. So I hit notifications. And so this is also new in XI. I want to text this dude now. And I want to also email him about this. I want to email the engineer so he knows that I'm taking care of it. And I want to send that out right now. And I could send a drip sequence on this, if you will. I want to do this, well, actually, this doesn't make sense in this case. The drip sequence makes more sense for an upcoming project. So let's say we've got a project next Monday, and I want to send a text and an email to my crew on Sunday to remember we got the thing tomorrow. So that's what that's for. So hit OK, and that just went out to Mark to let him know that there's a broken light bulb. He would come in then and fix all this stuff and change the status of It's now. No, we don't have fixed. Oh, there it is, fixed. So if this were like a camera that we needed to say send out to be repaired, I could say it's out from there and it's not coming back until there. And I could put some times in here. And what that's actually going to do is book it out for that period and not let me book the room or the camera or whatever it is for that period. It would create a conflict, notification, all that stuff. So that's maintenance. Let me jump back to the room. Visual layout, we can just, stick a picture in there. I don't have one. Attach an FTP. This is, if we had some maybe purchase receipts, something like that, schematics that we wanted to attach to this room, we could do that. And then there's the installed equipment. And rather than do 1,000 pieces of equipment, I'm just going to jump over to maybe Studio A. That's got a bunch of equipment in there so you can see like that. And let's go to the red camera. Somebody asked me a question. Can you adjust when double overtime kicks in? Yes. You can determine the number of hours that pass from the start time or from the initial overtime. So typically it'd be like 8 hours for regular time. Maybe you have 2 hours from hours 9 and 10 are regular overtime, and double overtime would start at hour 11 or something like that, beyond that. It does not have the ability to say that double overtime starts at 9 p.m. or something like that. It has to be X number of hours after something else. Okay, so here we are looking at equipment. Okay, so serial numbers, barcodes, purchase date, leasing or owning it, where do we get it from, version, warranty, expiration. Some of these like tweezy details it's really good to know about. You may have 1,000 pieces of equipment, some of which you want to talk about, like this camera would be nice to let your customers know that you have. You can put in the weight of it, so if you need to ship it, it'll know how much your whole shipment weighs. What the cost was, what the value, if you made a down payment, if you have a monthly payment. The earnings, this is how much this camera has made for us since we got it, because it's tracking the event history, and I'll show you that in a sec. Lease number, lease expiration. I talked earlier about how you can have multiple companies. So I could pick which one of my companies owns this particular piece of equipment. IP addresses, all kinds of interesting things. Packages. So maybe whenever we book this camera, we want some other things to go along with it. And so it's telling me that this device is a part of an existing package, which is another piece of equipment. But what I want to do is whenever I book this camera, I want some other things to go along with it. So I click on the little plus button here. And here's a list of either all of our equipment or all of our collections and resources. So maybe when I book this camera, I know I'm going to need a camera operator, so I can do that. And this is actually something that's new in XI, the ability to pick non-equipment items and also non-resource items. So maybe I would have like a cable or an adapter or a user guide manual listed as a piece of equipment that didn't need to be a resource, but I still needed to use it. I should have pre-populated something like that. So I think you get the idea there. Actually, let me filter this and show some other equipment. Let's say whenever I book this, I want the lens to come along with that. So now whenever I book the camera, the lens and the camera operator will be booked along with it. Accessories, adapters, cables, whatever, comments where you got it, scratched or something like that. Depreciation schedule, this is kind of neat. So I have no idea how much these things cost. I know they're expensive, so I'm just going to guess $40,000. Excuse me if that's not correct. And let's say after 5 years, I want to say that it's worth only 20 because they, of course, came out with new ones. And I want to create a depreciation schedule. So I just click on that, and this is going to show me over that 5 years, month by month by month, how much that piece of equipment is going to be worth. So maybe you want to sell it. Maybe for tax reasons, you need to track that stuff. So that's a nice little trick. Resource permission groups is all about, this is really aimed at education facilities. I haven't set up any of these in this kind of new copy, but basically you would have something here like, freshman class, junior class, senior class, and we will be able to check that this camera is only available to, say, senior class people. That's resource permission groups. We talked about rates earlier. They work the same way in equipment, but there's one part that I didn't show you about the day rate. And there's also quick rate. So maybe I'm going to do a day. It's going to apply a day name suffix to that. Maybe I want to make the day rate be, 10% of the value. Let me try that again. It should pop that in for me. All right, I'll type in a number. I think that would be 400. And then I just go quick rate, and there it's created that for me. And notice that it's appended the number 2 on there to prevent us having a duplicate rate name, because if you have 2 rates that are named the same, you can't tell which one's which. So I'm going to dig into that. I'm going to click the Go To button there to look at this rate. And one feature we've got for day rates is the rental style thing. So we're billing you by the day, but if you book it for 4 days, sorry, if you book it for a week, we're only going to charge you for 4, or if you book it for 4, we'll give you a week, however you do that. And then same for days per month. If you use it for 12 days, you get it to keep it for the whole month. Studio Suite will handle that algorithm for you in the booking automatically. So that's rates for equipment. And then there's event history. This is going to show us every usage of this piece of equipment, all the dates, the times, the status, and also all the projects that it's been used on. And this is great because if it comes back broken, you'll know who the last person to talk to was. And if the guy on serial drama says it wasn't him, he promises, then we know to go to look at the Comedy Nation guy. Totally apart from these usage histories where we're making money on it. Oh, by the way, down the bottom, 4,500 minus our cost of 4,000 means we're still, negative 35,500 on this before it breaks even. Scan Manager. So totally apart from the actual usage of this, we still need to keep track of of where this equipment has been traveling throughout its life. So let's say I'm in the equipment room right now, and I'm going to scan in a barcode. I'm going to cheat for a second. Let me go find another barcode. 4101. Okay, so notice I'm on the red, and I'm going to scan in, or type in this case, 4101, a barcode, and it's going to go find that record, which is that Arri Alexa camera, and it's put a date time stamp on it with my name, and I can even come in here and say that it's scratched. So that way we know that Joel said on this date and time that it was scratched. And over time, as we start to build these things up, we're going to have the ability to search for all of our equipment that was scanned ever, or that it was scanned since, say, the beginning of the month. Maybe we're doing a monthly inventory. Maybe more importantly, all the equipment that has not been scanned, which means nobody's really seen that around lately. We should go start looking for it. So here's that list of equipment that we haven't really seen. And notice in this list view that we can see, by the way, that this one is overdue. So I can go start looking at that. There's a bunch of different ways to sort this list view. So if I want to go look by description, it's going to, separate all of our cameras. We don't have enough to make this look like it makes sense, but if you had a lot of different equipment, it'd give you some subtotals of different things. So we can see here that our camera values, we had $120,000 in cameras, that kind of thing. It's also tracking in this list view our total maintenance hours, total labor, total parts, total maintenance, total cost of all of our stuff. Always good to know about. Okay, moving on. Maintenance history. Here's all the maintenance that's been done. I showed you maintenance a second ago and how that works. I can also set up when the next maintenance is due. Looks like that one hasn't been fixed in a while, so I'm just going to say that this is due in 2014. So certain people can be notified on login that they need to go in and replace the tubes on this piece of equipment. And of course I can go search all past due maintenance. If I'm the maintenance guy, I got to go fix this lens, or search future scheduled maintenance. Here's that one that we just created in November. Connectors and cables, kind of boring, going to skip that. Web viewer, this is kind of neat. So just like in contacts, I can scroll through all of my equipment, and it's going to do automatic searches in Google in this case, or maybe eBay. We want to find out what everybody else is buying and selling this particular thing for. So if I wanted to sell my microphone, well, I could get 12,000 bucks for it, or I need a new cable, that's 161. So again, we're bringing all this information right to you. Let's see if there's anything on Craigslist. Nope. What do people say on Google? So on, you get the idea. Attach an FTP. Maybe we went to the manufacturer's website, and from there we were going to download a user guide, and then we would save that probably to our downloads folder or to our desktop. But in this case, I'm going to say desktop, and I'm just going to pretend it was this one. I'm just going to drag it in there, store it up there, and now everybody's got instant access to that user guide. Not bad. And then reports. This is all the kinds of print me a list of all my equipment for the insurance company, print another one formatted for clients, print me a maintenance history for the current item because I'm selling it right now, print out barcodes for all these things. So every kind of printout that you want, and every time you print something out, you can pick which of your companies is on the letterhead, as we talked about. So we talked about resources, people, rooms, equipment. There's other kinds too. I'm going to go into the categories and items module. And maybe I've got some services that I provide. So I go over here and I've got meals and catering and compositing, FTP upload, hole digging, all that kind of stuff. Sandwich eating is very important. So you can create as many of these as you want. I'll create one right now. So I'll go to click the plus sign, and I'm going to create in the category of services again. And you can create your own categories. Comes with a certain batch. Subcategory is optional. I'm going to call doing a webinar. And then this service will be available. And whenever I do a webinar, I know that I'm going to need Joel Stoner because he's the webinar guy. And we could add as many of those as we want. And I could create a rate for this if I want. We've done that already, so I'm going to skip that. So now I've got a new kind of service called doing a webinar. So that's how we create things that aren't physical resources. So all of these things, the rooms, the equipment, the people, can show up in the calendar module. So I'm going to click on that. And we've got a preference to allow the calendar to open up in its own separate window. This calendar has been completely rewritten for Studio Suite XI, and I'm personally very proud of it. So there's a lot going on here. We've got some different options to show. Daily notes are these notes at the top. You remember up top, at the beginning, I typed pizza on the main menu. It shows up here in the calendar. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say is all gone, and save that. So now it is, of course, updated up here on the main menu as well. And I haven't shown you all the remote access points yet, but it would show up on our iOS devices and everywhere else too. So there's daily notes. Maybe I'm the kind of facility and I don't care about daily notes. The next thing down is resources. Let's get a better preset going on here. I'm going to pick my all preset. This should bring in all of our stuff. So now we've got a much bigger list of things. Resources, I'm going to turn that off. One of the new things in this calendar is the project calendar. So this green section is all the projects that we've got going on within this time range. There they all are. I can see that I've got conflicts. This red outline is showing me if I hover over that I've got the resource Studio B is booked there, and it's also booked on the same project twice. So that's kind of silly. I can see that as a problem. The red line is right now. So let's turn projects off for a second. One other thing about projects is this project D-empty. The square the square banner, we call it. We can also stretch these out. That indicates that there's a project in there. We haven't scheduled any resources for it yet. It's just an empty project with nothing going on during those days, as opposed to this project that just has resources scheduled on it. So we haven't figured out what we're going to put on that yet, but it's telling me that that's when the project is supposed to occur. So that's a kind of a good thing there. I'm going to turn projects off, and we're going to go look at tasks. It looks like we don't have any, so let's make one for Eddy Editor for yesterday. Create a task, and let's call it empty trash. So I'm going to pop that in there. And I can also actually assign that to multiple people. So if I come in here and I employee, let's pick, I always have to do that too. So pick myself and hit save. And so now what we're going to see is that task appear for Joel as well. Both of us have to empty the trash. So tasks can be assigned to multiple people. These green, I'm going to turn tasks off. These green outlined items are employee schedules. Sorry, the black outlines what I meant to say. So we can see when people are available, and we can create those employee schedules from the calendar as well. So I'm going to turn these back all back on again and show you something else about how the resources work. So there's a lot of people on this calendar. I'm just noticing that I am not on it, so let's fix that. So I click on the settings button here. And wow, I'm not even available as a resource. Good, so let's show you how this is done. I'm going to go over to the calendars. I'm in the calendar settings. I'm filtering all of my available people. I'm going to click on Joel, and it's going to drag him up to calendar resources. And now I'm visible down there. and I'm going to click on myself. And then I'm going to update the all preset just by clicking on the update button. And now I'm a part of that preset. But you know what I want to do is I want to also update my people preset to include me. So I'll click on that and I'll hit update. Now the people preset has been updated. So that's presets, and that's how we add new things from all of our resources to the calendar. And I guess I should expand on that for a little bit. You may have, again, thousands of pieces of equipment. We've only got 8 in this system. But you may also have, if I filter this to show like the AICE budget template, all of these things. We don't want to see all these things in the calendar. That would be nauseous. So we have a difference between our resources and our calendar resources. Only a smaller subset of those become visible, need to be visible in the calendar. And what I want to do actually is put the Joel resource in the Google Calendar. So here I get to pick which resource it's going to be, what color it's going to be. And next time I go look at my Google Calendar, Joel should be there. And then any stuff that we schedule for him should be there as well. So I'm going to go back to the calendar. And we'll now see Joel. And it's on the people preset because that's what we left it there as. And I'm going to go to all again. So now we're going to see all of our stuff and Joel. And I forgot to show you how we determine sort order. So I like to think that I'm very important. So I'm going to put myself up above there. So I'm going to make myself 5. So now I should appear 5th in the list, and there's 2 5s. That's okay. We can let that go. We can also adjust that to make it 5.5 or something like that. I know what I want to show you. I wanted to show you how I can filter this view. So I only am interested in myself, of course. So I want to click on myself, and this is now only showing me calendar for me. I don't want to look at all the other stuff, so it's all there. Okay, I guess I'll look at everybody else. And by the way, as I was navigating there, notice how fast this is. It's really nice. And if I click on here, it's going to bring me right back to the current date range. There's a bunch of different views as well. So obviously this is the week view. If I want to look at the day view, I can click on the header there. I can see that I've got this conflict, so maybe I should resolve that. I'm just going to drag this other thing down to Studio C. So it's just that easy to resolve those conflicts. And it's refreshing there because it has to turn off that conflict. It went and fixed that conflict notification. The red outlines are gone, and that's why it did the refresh. There's also a month view if we want to zoom out a little bit. And of course we can scroll around from here as well. Click back on here to get to the current range. And then there's some traditional views. So if I want to go look at a traditional style, wall calendar or something like that, I can do that. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the colors are representing status. So in my system, green is confirmed, blue is on hold, yellow is bumpable. We don't have any of those. Here's a traditional week. Here is a traditional day, just a list of things, and the year view is over here. Got the highlights on when there is stuff. And then there's an agenda view. Let me bring into the current week, and we can see all the stuff that's going on there. So those are different views of calendar. I like the timeline week view the best. Okay, enough blathering on about the calendar. Let's book it. Let's use something. So I'm going to go to the current range. Let's book our webinar. You know what? I didn't put our webinar room in the calendar. Let me do that. Edit to for webinar. There it is. I'm going to just simply click on it, and that's going to make it appear in the calendar. And let's book it. So it's down there at the bottom. Maybe I want to book it for a couple days. Let's go to next week. So let's book it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And let's say we need Joel on Monday and Andy on Tuesday. And we also need the camera on Tuesday as well. And then something like that. Which one of those? Oh, it was the Red Epic that booked the other stuff. So I've picked a number of different items on multiple days. I'm going to hit Book Project. It's going to ask me if I want to create a new project or add to an existing one. In this case, I'm going to do New. Again, here is the pop-up list of all of our customers. So I can just click on one, but if this was a giant list like you might have, I'm going to just type J-E. And that's going to reduce my list to the people that have matching letters in their names. And the name of this project is going to be called Webinar Walkthrough. Only the blue fields need to be filled out. So at this point, I can hit the next button and be on my way if I'm trying to go fast. It defaulted to my company. I could assign this project to any of the other companies if I wanted to. I'm going to pick who the producer is because in my system I've set up, we always have a producer, we always have an editor, we always have a director. And of course, I can change these. If this time it's a writer. I'll pick the writer. And this, by the way, I've noticed this. I don't know if you noticed. It's showing, if I check that checkbox there, a drop-down list of all the people that have matching titles. I don't have anybody in my system yet that's a writer, so I get nothing there. But also no assistants. By the way, I could also type in somebody here. So if I type in a guy named Jim. And he's not in our system, I can add him. So I click the add button. This is going to go create a new contract record for me. I could put in his phone number and all that stuff. And then I hit return to project. And this is going to now bring me back. And he's now officially in the system. So all the items that I selected from the calendar are appearing down there. And I could put some notes in here. About the particulars of this particular project, adjust terms, tax rates down here. Maybe this is a different rate card. Maybe this is an educational project. I could use different rates for that. If it's an equipment rental project, I could document some insurance information that there are certificates on file and that kind of thing. Down here, zoom into this a little bit. I can determine whether this is a budget or an actual. Now, since I started this project from the calendar, it's probably an actual. I'm going to loop back and show it to you as a budget in a minute. So I'm going to hit next. And this is going to churn just for a minute because I've got to, that was fast, create all of those line items, check for conflicts, look up all the prices, do all the math and everything like that. So here is our webinar walkthrough project. Here we can see the edit to for webinar room that we created came in at the default rate. And I forget if this is the one that we did the overtime on. I think we did. So I'm going to just go in and change this to, let's finish at 11:30. Do I want to apply that change to everything else? I'm going to say, yeah, match the times just on Joel for that day. So hit yes in this case. So now we'll see the times for both of those, for the room and for Joel, extend. And we're going to see that the rate has gone up there. And I guess for that one, I did not do the overtime. So it's calculating $100 times $14.50, but maybe, for you, I'm going to give you a break. It's just $90. That shows up in blue, so we can see that we've altered it from whatever the default rate is. And that's good to know. Just quickly scanning here, I can say, oh, somebody's changed the rate on this. So notice the camera, we talked about that. I set it up so whenever I book the camera, it's going to sub-book the camera operator and the lens. So that's all there. And it didn't pop in. We haven't set up a rate for the camera op daily or a price. So let's say, I don't know, he's $250 a day. And the lens, okay, the camera op daily guy has a rate. He just doesn't have a price. The lens itself doesn't even have a rate or a price. So I'm just going to type in a price. I have no idea what that goes for. I'm going to call it $100. So notice the camera is a package, 500, 250, 100. If I collapse this package, we're going to see that those things get combined and it turns bold and it has that little sum sign on it. So you can see that that has been added up together. By the way, we're also seeing down the bottom what the total project is going to be. We're going to see our total hours, total quantities down there. And it's also calculating a project range down at the bottom. So we're starting on Monday, ending on Thursday. And there's a user specified one and there's a calculated one. So I'm going to, as the user, specify, well, I know this project is actually going to go out until the 9th. And I'm going to show you how this looks in the calendar in a second, even though we've only got things scheduled through the 2nd. So that's a nice little thing. So let's say we're still on the phone with a client and we're saying, yeah, it's $47.55. He goes, oh, my budget's, $10,000. Higher, they never say that. But let's say he goes, oh, I forgot to tell you, we need to add some more stuff. So I'm going to click add items. And this is going to bring us up into our resource picker. There's a lot of ways to filter this. I can just start typing something here. I'm going to say CAST. I need a casting director. So we can search by just typing things in there. We can also put in a barcode. I think I've got something called 12345. So that's the barcode for this particular video machine. So if you're holding it, you can scan it in if you know the barcode. I've also got a little me button there. So if I want to find myself, which I still haven't done, I could click on that it's showing me that I've got a conflict because I already booked myself on there. If I hover over it, it's going to show the details of that conflict. So I better not book myself, then I would be conflicted. So then maybe I want to look at some other, I can filter this list by category. I think you get the idea. Very easy to pick all the stuff that you want. So I've picked a couple things there. Let's go Studio C. We need that. So I'll go add to project. And it's letting me know that I created this project as an actual. If I wanted, I could add these things to the budget if I wanted, but I just want them there. So I guess that I had a large date range on that screen, so it added all of those things as separate events for those days. And if you were a StuSuite user of an older version, you were probably wondering, gosh, that was awful fast. StuSuite XI is faster. So speaking of that, when I booked that, so if I click this add items thing again, I want to explain why that happened. This project I set to start on the 29th and go to the 9th, and I did not flag it as continuous. So that means that anything that I book is going to be booked as a separate event or separate project line item for each day. So if I do select this as continuous, and I book Studio A, this, on the other hand, will book one single event around the clock. And maybe a more realistic use of that would be a piece of equipment. Maybe we're doing a rental and we're going to send the our Alexa camera out for that period as a continuous because it's gone as soon as it leaves on Monday. It's not coming back until the 9th. It's gone 24 hours a day. So I'm going to add that to my project as well. And instead of coming in a bunch of different line items, we're going to see it come in as a single line item down at the bottom. So that's actually a fairly important distinction that could affect the way you book things. You know, if you're an equipment rental house, you'll book things that way. If you are a production company, you may book them more this way because you need to track on each day when did we really start and stop each of these things. That's one way that we can add things. We can add things another way with this gear tool. This was introduced in Studio Suite X. Here, if I want to, kind of snake through my equipment and I want to look at my camera options, I can see them that way. I want to look at my microphones, my keyboards. Again, I don't have much equipment in here, but this one's nice. AICE. Maybe I want to go look at all the audio options I've got. Maybe I want to go look at all of my video effect options in an AICP or AICE style budget. So I can add things that way. I can also do this. So I click here and I'm just going to start typing a couple letters. I can't think of anybody in particular. So I'm just going to type ED and maybe I need to do an assistant editor. I don't know who it is yet, but I need somebody. So I just have added an assistant editor. He'll be down here at the bottom, I think. There he is. So that's the 3 ways to add things to a project. Clicking add items or the gear tool or this thing. But we have another thing I want to show you about this. So assistant editor, I added as a generic role, but now I want to say who that person is. So I'm going to click on the gear tool here, and there's a number of options. I guess I gotta, okay, I'm going to do that. On each line item, and one of them is I can pick an operator. And so let's say that Mark is going to be the assistant editor on that. And so now it's in parentheses, I can see who that operator is. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this gear tool. Go up to Joel. I could duplicate that. So let's just do that. So maybe Joel is working on the 29th, and now I also need him on, what is that, September the 30th. So I can just pick that day. Say, okay. So now we're going to end up with 2 things. That's just an easier way. You don't have to snake through everything. We can also duplicate as child. So let me find a good use case for that. Casting director. Maybe we have several. So I'm going to duplicate that as a child item. And then once that's done, whatever day is good there, that's going to bring them out of the order. But we should see this appear directly below the casting director. Maybe now I want to actually say that that is a specific person. So I'm going to say change to. I'll go down to people. And I don't have casting director in here, so let's say it's Molly. So now Molly is a casting director, and then if I wanted to go on and continue to add more people, I would be able to do an expand collapse on what is the total casting director's cost on this whole project if I had added more. So let's come up look at another option on this gear tool. I can insert items. I could add a child item to an existing item. I could rename an item. So this thing, edit to for webinar, well, let's not be so specific. Let's just call it edit to, like that. So anything can be renamed. And by the way, if I shift click on any of these, I can do that as well. So I'm shift clicking on this edit to for webinar. That brings that up, and I'm just going to give it a random quick name there. So this makes it easy to, if you just need to, add some random stuff to the project, you can do that. Looking at this gear tool again, assign to. So if I want to reassign something to something else, I can do that. Let's look at the second Joel there. Sorry, I keep using myself. I'm going to say assign to people Joel, and then Joel's working on 2 different days. I'm going to assign him to the first day. So now we'll get a little bit of a hierarchy going on Joel. Just making it easy to construct the structure of this thing. Now, I don't like that, so what I'm going to do is deassign, and we're going to see that little structure go away. So that's done. And assign a budget code. If I was working with a particular budget template, I would be able to assign any of these kinds of things to a budget code, and that will be visible in some of the other areas that we haven't got to yet. Operator I showed you. Oh, and create new item. So maybe, hey, let's provide some new service. So I can very quickly create that. So I'm just going to type a random thing just to be quick about it. And so there it is. I'm not going to create a rate. I think you know how that works. So now, if I go to my add items view, I don't even remember what I typed. Sorry, it would be there, whatever it is. So a lot of things you can do with the gear tool on each line item. Okay, so let's take a quick tour through the rest of projects. Okay, tasks. On this particular project, we can create a bunch of different tasks, blah, 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 blah. Give them a due date and time, 12. And then we can assign it to one or more people. So I've got a number of employees. I can just very quickly assign a group of people to this. I picked the same person again, so it removed it. That's how you do that. I could pick, for example, all of my cameramen. I only have one in there, that kind of thing. So easy to do. And now maybe I want to send a notification. So I hit notification on that. I can do this again a couple different ways, via SMS, via email. I can also do Twitter. I didn't mention earlier. This is great if you've got a large staff, large crew on a project that you need to quickly get a message out to. You could set up a hashtag for the project, send them a quick notice about whatever, and everybody would be clued in. So notifications for tasks. I'm just going to delete this because I don't want to go through that. Okay, and we can create a bunch of those, and then we can also define task groups. I've got a couple. I'm going to pick edit session, and then that's going to plop. I guess I actually don't have any in there. Sorry. If any of these are my task groups. If any were in there, the whole batch of tasks would get quickly assigned in there, and then we could quickly assign them to the appropriate people. And then notes. So let's go over to notes. I can just keep adding some random notes, kind of like in a big sheet here. Or new to XI is the ability to edit default project notes. Maybe you've got kind of a standardized set of headings that you want to apply to every project. And so I'll call this webinar heading. And then basically this is going to allow me to load that. And then I can put different things going, like here, webinar, blah, 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 blah. Chip says, blah, 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 team, blah, 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 notation. You get the idea. So that's one big note field. We also just added what we call transactional communications within projects. So I'm going to say on this date and time, Joel said that. If another guy comes along, he'll come in and go blah, 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 blah. It would document his name. And then again, we can email and send notifications out for these as well. So trying to make it really easy to get everybody on the same page. This whole talent section, I'm just going to kind of breeze through this. You can add, we need an accordion player, and this will show us a list of all of those people. Track their date, the time, did they make it, how much did they cost, that kind of thing. Let's do a call sheet. Go to the call sheets area, hit the plus button. What's the date of the call sheet? So I hit OK. Huh. I don't know why I'm not allowed to do that. Doesn't it know who I am? All right, I'm going to dive in very quickly here and go look at my user account, find out why that's the case. Joel. Going to go to account permissions, select all. Okay, so now I should have all permissions. I probably turned that off in a previous demo or something like that. Projects, call sheets. Okay, now I should be able to do it. Pick a date. And here I am on my call sheet, report on the set at 7 a.m. And I'm going to set the description notes here, blah, 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 blah. What time are we leaving? Crew call, lunchtime, shooting call, sunrise, sunset, wrap, all that stuff. Locations, this is going to give us a drop-down list of locations from contacts. I happen to not have any. Let's just pick, I don't know, let's pick Janie Thompson. So now we have that particular address. And then scene description, what scene number it is. Any cast, we would get a drop-down list of all of our cast members right there. Pages of the scripts we're working on, any notes that go along with that. So, of course, we could build up a bunch of these as we go along. Try to do this very quickly. Scene 4, blah, 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 blah. Cast notes go here. I think you know how these work, so I'm just going to put in Joel. You must think I have a giant ego at this himself. Status is confirmed. Report to makeup, yes, lots of makeup, and some other notes. Oh, that's a time. Okay, so 6, and notes like that. So let's print that out. And we'll go, I'll go email just to show you that. So that, of course, we'll make a PDF of it. And then, so here it is creating the PDF, and then it's going to open up an email for us. There's the PDF, and I'm going to send it directly out of Studio Suite, and get to pick from a list of email addresses. I would just, if there was a client address on this project, it would appear there automatically. Here is the PDF, by the way. Right, let's see, F13. Keep it. I hit enter on my keyboard and it went away. So that's call sheets. I hit back. And back again. So setup information, this is where you put in all the technical specs of the project. I'm going to skip over that. I'm going to go to client info. This is basically what we saw before. Shipping information, financial information. We would see invoices for this project. We would see their aging history right here. Media assets. We haven't created any media assets. Let's say the project is underway right now. So I'm going to create some media assets. So I hit the plus sign. And let's say the client walked in the door, or the cameraman walked in the door with 3 media assets. And I'm going to call this R1 for reel 1. Notice it's inherited all the client and project information, set up a library number, set up a barcode. And I'm going to hit done. But first, I told it that I'm going to create 3. I've named the first one R1. I hit done and print receipt. I'm going to call the second one R2 for reel 2. And just to be funny, I call the next one R2D2. And hit done on that. And so this is a receipt form that we can print out to give whoever that belongs to, along with all the barcodes. And we sign it down the bottom. We acknowledge receipt of those items. Okay. And not actually print it. So now we're in the library module. If this were an older, physical type of media, maybe a tape, maybe a CD, maybe a vinyl LP, by putting in these different titles or cuts or clips or cues or scenes or spots, we've already set it up so we can create labels for each piece of media. So here's a CD label, complete with all of the correctly spelled client and project information. So I hit OK on that. Maybe I want this kind of label. So here is that. It's got a barcode, all the titles, all ready to go. Remember that these are all user customizable, so you can go in and change the fonts, colors, positions, and so on. And every time we're printing these out, we can pick which of our company logos should be on there. So chances are, though, you're not doing this kind of media. You're doing digital media assets. So I'm going to go to my disk log tab and click on the log directory tab. It's going to ask me what kind of metadata I want to get into this. Hello. And then we'll hit OK on that. And then it's going to ask me to locate a folder. I'm going to pick this Final Cut Pro folder. So choose. And so what it's going to do now is go down and basically take a snapshot of all of the files and folders that are in that folder that I just chose. So it's got the basic metadata of creation, modification, date, time, and size. But because I asked for time codes, I can view that as well. So there's all my start time codes, end codes are there as well. And if I wanted to launch one of these, maybe I want to get to work on this project, I just click on it, and then it's going to open it up in whatever the native application is. In this case, it's QuickTime, but it would work for Final Cut or Pro Tools or Logic or Avid or whatever you've got, Photoshop, Word, Excel. So it's just a really great way to connect all of the media assets that you're working with to the library, which could be connected, by the way, to a particular hard drive, which is also, of course, all connected to the project, which is connected to the client. It's a 3D universe. So here we can do extended comments on this. If this were a multi-track format, we would be able to document all those. It's showing me the other related assets. So if I called up one, I can instantly see everything else that's related to it. If this were a package, if somebody brought in a box of tapes and script and something else, we could define all those as a package and check them all in and out together. I'm going to go over to QC report. I showed you this already, but it's at a couple different levels within the system. So we've got a QC report on the entire whole library asset. If it's we've got keywords. If we want to put in clouds and sunshine and that kind of thing, that way we could search for footage that had clouds and sunshine in it and bring this material up. The asset history. This is showing when it was created. Sometimes it's important to know. And the attach and FTP tab, I showed you before how that works. If this were stock footage, we could actually assign rates to these media assets for usage. I'm going to go to the detail tab. Oh, report. Yeah, reports. I showed you the labeling already. I'm going to now jump back to the project. And of course, the media asset tab has an underline on it. That's showing me that we do have media assets. If I click on that, maybe the project is over now and I want to check out these assets to the client. Show you how that works. So I'm going to go to one of them. It's automatically found me the correct 3 media assets that are related to that project, and I want to change the status. Currently it's in. I'm going to click on it and I want to do multiple. I can either do this single one or multiple, which is what I'll do. And then this is going to show me a list of the ones that I've got. I was talking, so I pressed the wrong buttons there. But what I want to do is just pick the ones that I want. Normally, it'll have them pre-selected. So there they are. Picked them again. I hit continue, and it's telling me 3 reels are about to be released. And then I can say who authorized this, who released it, who took it, how are we shipping it. Maybe there's a FedEx number if we're using that. The date and the time taken, if it's expected to come back at any point in time, where it was sent, and we've got a button there to allow you to pump in the client address, and any notes that go along with it. Maybe the script goes to, something like that. And of course, this will create a library item release form with all of the correctly spelled client project information, the barcodes, the titles, signatures down at the bottom. Hit OK on that. I'm almost done with library. So these are now out. I'm going to jump back to project. And I've been neglecting a bunch of questions. So let me catch up on some of these. When checking out equipment, can it be checked out to a specific person, as people can only check out equipment under their login? Can it be only checked out to a specific person? If I understand it correctly, yes, because a project would be associated to a specific person, which would be the client. I think what you're asking is, can we restrict it so that it will only let us check a certain piece of equipment out to a certain person? For that, no, because you would know who the client is and you wouldn't check it out to somebody else. I think that's kind of a human thing. But if you wanted a rule-based system to govern who could check what pieces of equipment out, that's where the resource groups come into play, where you can assign groups, like I mentioned before, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then each piece of equipment would also be assigned to the appropriate one. And when you try to have a freshman check out the red camera, it would just not let them do that. So that we've got, yes. As in, people can only check out equipment under their login. So I think not exactly the way you want it there, but close. Somebody asked to see the traditional week calendar, so I'm just going to show that. There's the traditional week. And right now the colors are all the same because everything's the same status. But in realistically, you might see different things. Let's see, another question. Someone's asking, has there been a safety notification built in for an accidental event move time change on the timeline? Are you sure you want to make this change? No, not. I'm not sure if we've actually been asked that enough times to make it something relevant. I think that if every time we moved something, we threw up a "Are you sure?" dialogue, people might not like that. But if for that person, if that's something that you'd like, as you know, that there is always customization options. Let's see, is this scheduled by full days or can it be broken down into hours or day parts? Yeah, so what we're looking at here is the hours of a day, and which hours you see there is actually governed by some settings. So I'm going to show you that. We're jumping a little off course here, but I just want to get caught up on questions before we get too far behind. So, you know, if your day starts at 6 a.m. and goes until 6 p.m., we can set that. I'm going to save that. And then when I refresh my calendar, it's going to come back in and show us that time range instead of the one that we just saw. Start at, oh, I see. I was setting the wrong setting. So if I do it correctly, it will now work. So this one that I did before was the default. If I do a whole day event, what is the default start time? So that's why it showed up that way. This is going to adjust the range of the day. And there's some other preferences I'll mention here. You know, what's your start day of the week? Default length of new events. Start and end time if you create a whole day event. Number of month cells per view in the month linear in the traditional month view. Timeline, time format. Some people like 24, so we can switch that. Step intervals. So this is kind of like your resolution. You know, as you're dragging things out, it'll jump by 30-minute intervals. And then you could also set a reload. You know, if you want it to reload every 5 minutes, if people on your network are making changes, maybe you want it to want your calendar to reload all the time. So now I'll hit save. And now we can see it starts at 6 and goes to 6. Sorry that took so long. Somebody's asking, do you have to select the people assigned to the project twice? Definitely not. In fact, you can make it so that they are assigned automatically. So that when you book the room, the people are automatically assigned. Can you generate barcodes? Yes, we can. A couple different ways. We've actually got, I'm going to start there on equipment and just say that for each piece of equipment, you can put in a barcode. So you can either type that in or you can scan it in if you've got a barcode scanner and you've already got barcodes stuck to your equipment. Once that is done, if I go to reports, let's see, equipment list with barcodes. I'll show you how that works. So there are the barcodes that are put in there. Those can be printed out on barcode labels. If you want to do that, here's a little Dymo equipment barcode label. I don't have one hooked up, so it won't really work. Avery style equipment labels, barcode labels. Those aren't really great though because they fall off. But we also have a barcodes module. Which is right here, and this is where you can just print scads and scads of barcodes on each piece of, and have them available. So if I go 30 per page, here is just a whole bunch of barcodes, and you can specify what the start point is on that. So I'm using these sets for media tracking, so I'm calling ME. There's my start number, how many digits there are. If I wanted to do a suffix as well, I could do that. So typically what people do is instead of EQ, they'll do the initials of their company name or something like that. So yes, we can do barcodes. Somebody says, I can't believe how much you've taken care of with XI. Thank you. It's awesome. Also, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to get back on track. I think we've covered all the questions. Where was I? We were looking at library, I think. Yeah, we released the stuff, then we went back into the project, and we saw it there. I'll go to the media assets, and this is where we can see that those items have been released. And one other thing that I want to show you on the Attach an FTP tab. If I pick a file, right-click in here, insert a picture. Just going to get a random icon there, and I hit OK. When I hover over that, I'm going to see all of the metadata associated with that. So if that were, a photo that had a lot of metadata, we'd be able to see it all there. So sometimes that's good to have available. Um, we've been 90 minutes. You've been incredibly patient. We're not done yet. I'm going to keep talking until we're done. I haven't even showed you some really cool things. Next thing I need to show you is the invoice. So I'm going to go select all for invoice. It's going to go down here and check all of these checkboxes. And then I'm going to hit invoice selected items. Is this the final invoice? I'll say yes, final. And so now this is going to drop us off over in the invoice module. With all of those line items again. Imagine if you had to then retype all of that stuff to create an invoice. So here are all of those items on the invoice. I'm going to say print this invoice. And there it is. All those line items. Once we've got it here in the StudioSuite invoice module, we can send it via an email. Of course, that'll create a PDF, send it out via email, and then we can also export it out to QuickBooks. That's a little bit of a tweezy process, so I'm not going to do that right now. Just know that it can be done. But what I do want to do is take a payment. So I'm going to come down here and click the plus sign under payments. And this was a check spelled that way. And I'm going to hit the full balance. Actually, why don't I do a $5,000 payment? Hit continue. If this had been exported out to invoices, I would be able to export it. Export it out to QuickBooks. I would be able to export this payment. I'm going to say not now. And so now it's showing me that I've done a $5,000 payment and I've got a balance of $5,250. And maybe I need to do another payment. So I'm just going to do that again. And I hit the balance button. And this was by credit card. So I hit continue and hit not now. So now this payment has been made in full. If I now go to click on the client button and jump all the way back to the client record and I go to the more info tab, we will see that here is the project that we did. And I can jump to it from contacts into the project. There it is. I'm going to hit the back button to get back to there. From here, I'm going to go to the financial tab. This is going to show us that particular invoice. There it is. Of course, I can jump to it. There's the invoice, and I'm going to hit the back button. And let's go to the Media Assets tab. And here are all of those media assets that I created. I can jump to them. And here we are in the library module looking at those. We can see they've been checked out. And then that's it. So I go to the client, and that, in a nutshell, is StudioSuite. I'm going to show you a couple things that we haven't got to yet. I know we're way over time, but these things are important. So I'm going to go over to Chrome, and I'm going to bring this down from here, and I'm going to hide FileMaker. These are what we call the Web Glancer modules. So I'm going to go into Web Glancer. I'm going to log in. So we can go to contacts. I could search for contacts if I always like to search for myself. So here I am. Go to the detail tab. Here's all the details of that particular contact. This is read-only, not occupying any seat licenses in the browser. Next, I want to go look at library. It works basically the same way. So if I do webinar, we're going to see all of the 3 media assets that we just created. We can see that they're out on the webinar walkthrough. So if you've got people out in the field, they want to know where the media assets are, they can do that. Let's look at calendar. So this is going to open up nice and big. And I think we created our project next week. So look, here is all the stuff that we just created in StudioSuite in the browser, in FileMaker on the desktop version, showing up quite nicely. Here, there, if I want to hover over it, I can see all the details. And we have all the views here as well. So if I want to go into a particular day, I can see all of those. So your whole team can view this from home at midnight without costing you a penny. Pretty huge. And since I'm on calendar, I should also just jump over and let's look at the the Google Calendar. And we'll go into next week. And here's all the stuff that I created in FileMaker. It's now also appearing in my Google Calendar. And notice the projects are as well. So we had this before, but what we've added is what we call the project banners. So I can see this project is going to be happening that whole week. And on Wednesday, 10/1, I'm going to change this particular event for Who's this for? This is for Studio A. So we're going to go back into Studio Suite in a second, and we'll see that Studio Suite A will have been changed from Google. I got off course there. I'm just going to do that. Still in web Glancer. I'm going to go to Quick Log, and this is where your staffers and freelancers can log their time into projects. So here are all the people. Here are the projects that are going on this week. Here's the webinar walkthrough, and I could set up a date and a time. I'm going to put in, I started at 9:30, ended at 1:30. I'm just going to add myself to the webinar walkthrough. Click Add Me. There it is down there. So keep your eye down here. I'm also going to add myself to the Comedy Nation project right there. And I can adjust these times, of course. So make this one start at 1:30. And we can do other kinds of things as well. Oh, I could search for things. So if I wanted to just look for that one called Serial, I could get that one. But now I want to maybe add some equipment to that project. So I'll just click on that and then click on that. So now it added the Avalon. Maybe I want the video machine to that as well. Let's go to services, and I'm going to just open this up. Oops, dang it. Didn't mean to click off there. I clicked back to the main menu button. So I honestly don't know what happened to the ones I did there. So let me do this. I'm going to add myself to a couple of these and some pieces of equipment to some random items just to show how that works. Okay, so there's a bunch of different items, and I hit OK. And so now those are now going to get added from a browser without occupying a seat to all those projects. So we think that's pretty cool. Web request, this is where your clients can actually request something, and this shows up in the web request module of Studio Suite. I'm not going to cover this one too closely now, but so this is HTML code that we provide you. People can put this on your site. They can log on and request things that you've got on certain dates and times. That shows up in Studio Suite. Everybody gets notified, all that stuff. Web Direct, this is kind of the grand finale. I'm going to log in. Hit OK. So this takes just a second to log in. Incidentally, if you are doing this, say, cross-country, this method will actually be much faster than logging in as a FileMaker client. It's given me those record lock notices because I logged in as Joel in both systems, and that means that it's I'm occupying some records on one system, and it's having trouble logging in here. So this is Studio Suite in a browser. So we go to Contacts. Let's find Jeannie Thompson. So I'm going to go to my list here. And where is she? She's right here. And let's go to more info. From here, there's our webinar walkthrough. I'm going to go to the, say, financial tab. This will take me to the invoice. Of course, you probably have the invoice turned off for people that are accessing it through a browser. But here we are in that kind of giant invoice. From here, I'm going to jump into the project. And maybe I want to make some changes on this. So what I'm going to do here is, hey, I see somebody change this price to $90. That's not right. It's supposed to be $100. So I'm going to change that back. That's taking a little longer than I think it should, but now it's back to 100. Something, some more simple. Let's call this a post-production project. So I think you get the idea that you can see and do pretty much everything in the browser that you can on the desktop. And again, we're still calling it a secondary method of access because it's a little bit clunkier, but it's, pretty amazing for what it's doing. So I'm going to hide Safari. I'm going to hide that. Now, one thing is iCal. Let's open these up. So I've created a bunch of events on our webinar project, and we're also getting it two-way sunk, if you will, to iCal, if I can figure out how to use it. Go to the next week. Okay, so here is all of our webinar stuff. And if you remember, we changed this particular event to be 9 to 1 in Google. It showed up that way in iCal. I'm going to hide that. And let's hide FileMaker also. All these notifications up here on the right, by the way, they're coming from iCal because I created them in Studio Suite. They're showing up in iCal in giving me these notifications. So let's get rid of all those. Now, finally, let's go over to my iPad. So this is my actual iPad. I'm going to pick it up, and let's just go look at contacts for a second. And then we could go find Jeannie. Well, actually just going to go this way. 2 fingers. I can swipe with 2 fingers. There she is. So if I go to more info on Jeannie Thompson, there's our webinar walkthrough. And by the way, this looks a lot better on the real iPad. It's looking all kind of fuzzy and pixelated on screen there, but it looks better in real life. So I'm going to touch on that project, and that's going to bring us into our giant project here. Notice, if you remember, when I was on the browser, I changed it to post. From here, I'm going to change it back to, let's say, lead project. That's all there. And if we look at, where was that, Studio A that we changed in the browser? Oh, it was Studio C, I think. So there it is right there. So anyway, you can see how all of this stuff, once you do it in one place, it appears everywhere else. And with that, I think let's call it. So let me go back to my slide, and actually I'm not even going to go back to the slides. Let's just say that's it. Thanks very much, everybody. There's a couple last minute questions. How easy is it to import an existing media library and match the fields? It's pretty easy. Sometimes you might run into a little bit of a square peg, round hole situation, but that's pretty easy to deal with. So we do that all the time. Another person is asking, do you need a static IP for all the Web Glancer features to work? Yes. You don't have to have it. It will just get lost all the time. So that's really the best way to go about that. Someone's asking, when using Quicklog, does it create a duplicate event in a project, or will it recognize an event and amend the time accordingly? No, the Quicklog actually does create a new event. I wouldn't say it's a duplicate event unless you already have that event in there. If they needed to adjust a time that was already scheduled, then they would actually need to do that within Studio Suite. So the idea for that is for people to put their time onto things that don't yet exist. So that's it, everybody. Thanks very much. We'll get this up in a week. If you have any questions, give us a call. There's the phone numbers. Talk to Human, or if you want to email, send sales at studiosuite.com, or there's a ton of info on our site, studiosuite.com. Talk to you soon.